All right. So you are listening to the podcast, only one in the group. Um, my name is Katerra Borkowski,
Hi, my name is Lynn Hardy.
and we are your co-hosts for the podcast, only one in the group. I came up with the name and the idea, and I shared it with Lynn. I created this podcast because I want people to talk about moments where they found themselves as the only one in the room and to talk about the experience of being other, whether they're like bald or a black person, Asian, have gay parents, the only woman, the only man in the room. Like, I just wanted to show what it felt like to be just a minority or a person of one in a large group.
Yeah.
What did you think of the idea when I first pitched it to you?
I liked it as a black gay man from the South, the small South of Arkansas. I am oftentimes the only one in the room, like myself. And so I was just like, oh yeah, we need to hear that because I think people need to have the empathy to be like, what is that like to not have community, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when I moved to New York, one of the things I shared with you was how deeply I was looking for a community that that was black. I love my white friends. I love Kentucky, but it wasn't enough diversity. And I really one of my favorite parts about New York City is I feel like I'm no longer under a microscope because there's so many different people of color. It's so diverse. I'm not sticking out like a sore thumb, and it's like a breath of fresh air.
It is, and I feel that way too. It's just oh yeah, everyone's doing their own thing, you know.
Yeah.
No one really cares what you're doing as long as you're minding your business and mind their business. Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a breath of fresh air if you're not used to that.
It's so you and you're from Arkansas and you moved to New York. What was your thing that you found that was a breath of fresh air coming from Arkansas to New York? Your biggest
So to be real about it, before I came here, I was in Utah for 5 years. Utah is super white. It's
my God! I have an ex who's Mormon, and he's super white.
Yeah. It's
oh wow!
Yeah, and Mormon white is different white.
Oh, it's pure, clean, weird.
Yeah, and so being there for 5 years, I was just I need to get out. I need to see people like me. I need to go outside and see people who look like me just a little bit, right? Not just on Juneteenth. And so I came here and now I'm oh wow, I go outside and there are people who look like me, you know?
Yeah.
And I was just oh, that's so nice. And I didn't realize how much that shaped my behavior, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think I was code switching, but I think I was just my body was aware. There's just oh, people are seeing you differently, you know? And now it's oh, this is kind of cool to just be one of many, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely it is such a relief to be one of many, and it's such a relief to just be in such a diverse area where it's not, I don't want to say painfully white, but I think it's fucking awesome that I have a Korean dentist and I've got a Mexican and a Dominican workers in my favorite bodega. And Haitian men are not black men. I learned that. That's
what?
So I am just learning so much moving to New York, but it is. The diversity to me is that's been my breath of fresh air as well. It's I love it.
Yeah. It's just oh, this is what the world should be.
Yes, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is exactly what the world should be. And oh dear God, I'm so glad I'm living in New York City right now.
Yeah.
With everything going on in the world.
Yeah.
I'm reading stories online. I don't know about you, but what's showing up in my feed is I'm having more black people post racist incidents, and I feel I feel like white people are more emboldened to be racist and to be rude when they're the majority.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like they don't feel outnumbered. They don't feel other.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what the podcast wants to highlight. We're trying to teach empathy. We're trying to teach vulnerability.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing on Instagram is people are posting more racist incidents, and I feel like racists are feeling emboldened with this current administration.
Most definitely.
And with the recent laws that are being passed, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, they are definitely emboldened. It helps when there's a guy in the office who's hiring other people who look like you, who say, hey, if you look different, you can't belong here, and you're not welcomed. You know, that will definitely do something for your ego. I know that when I saw Black Panther in like the theaters, right? I was just like, oh, is this how white men feel when they watch action movies? You know? Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, I can go out and kick some ass. And it's just like, this is just one movie. Imagine if the leader of your country is like acting like that. Yeah, they're acting a fool.
No, it's so fucking cool. Like when you bring up Black Panther, it's like when I was growing up, I didn't have a all black superhero movie.
Yeah.
And not only were like black people exalted, they were fucking like magical. Like they had superpowers.
Right.
It was very cool. And like if I would have grown up with that, how cool would that have like to see, you know? But the fact that other kids get to is pretty rad.
It really is. Like my nieces and nephews get that, and I was like, oh, that's so dope. The closest I had was like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z and Knuckles from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yep.
And now they're like, oh, there's actual black people. And we love that for them. And also you get to like experience it through their eyes now, right?
Yes.
It's just like, oh yeah, you get to see being black with all this responsibility, you know? It's a good thing. Like, despite all the bad things happening in the world right now, there's a lot of good things happening too. You know, Beyonce just won Album of the Year. So
very blessed. And you know what? This is the world. You know what? This is just the world trying to take a good black woman down. Black women have it hard, but everyone like there's like online snickering of people saying that Beyonce got the Grammy because Jay-Z made such a stink about it, and he said something, and because he's like a revered man in music, that they made sure that this year she got Album of the Year. Because like Jay-Z's big stink was like she has won the most Grammys out of any artist, but never Album of the Year. It doesn't make any sense, and boom, she gets it.
Yeah.
So like people are shitting on it because Jay-Z made a stink, and then there's people who are like saying like she should have, you know, they're shitting on the country album because they're like it's not country, and it's just like she said in her speech, like I think she said like sometimes genres are like people trying to tell you to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Like they're like chains and they need to be broken and mixed. And it's like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And whether that came from Beyonce or she paid someone a lot of money to write that for, most definitely. Like, Beastie Boys did hip hop. They were fucking great. Like, the black community embraced them. Like, and I love that. I mean, I love Dolly Parton embraced Beyonce.
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus embraced Beyonce.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, Dolly Parton can do no wrong. I really love her.
Yeah, no, she is being embraced by country artists. Maybe not all the country, but like enough notable country people have said, yes, he's doing country.
Yes.
That I think, you know, we can like at least trust them as like testimonials, right? And also the idea that like Jay-Z made us think about it and now she got the award. To me, that is just like misogyny, right? Because like one, Beyonce still has to make a good album.
Yes.
Like to like get nominated for a Grammy, your album has to be good. Like
yes. And it's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Cowboy
great.
Carter deserved that Album of the Year.
She did, and she has deserved it many times years before. Like Lemonade, I probably deserved it. Renaissance definitely deserved it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Harry Styles, who said this doesn't usually happen to people like me. And like,
get the fuck out of
right?
here.
Like a white straight man. Like, what do you mean? So yeah, Beyonce has like earned it many times before. I think what people are like feeling is like Cowboy Carter may not be her strongest album compared to like Renaissance and Lemonade. but it is still a strong album.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, people are like, it's strong enough that we want her to win it. And I'm glad she did win it because it's a great album. It represents black people in country music and the history we have with that. And it is her just doing a whole history lesson for the genre of country.
Yes.
And that's not worthy of album of the year.
Yes.
Then what is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Oh my God. And then, but like, I will say, I was bummed that Shabuzi and Glow walked with 0 awards.
Glow got nothing?
Glow got no Grammys.
Wow.
And neither did Shabuzi, but he had a fantastic performance.
Okay.
And I'm shocked by that. But also, like, I guess it was just like really steep competition. Also, like, Kendrick, like, sweeping all of the awards and getting it, like,
yes.
well deserved.
Well deserved. I love when a hater wins. Like,
yes! He gets celebrated for being petty.
Yes.
I love it.
Isn't that the dream? Like, and also I love when a hater supports another hater.
Yes.
Because I saw Taylor Swift, like, toasting him and drinking.
Yes.
And it's just like, she's a hater to
yes.
her core. And so a hater recognizing another hater and being like, you deserve that?
Mm-hmm.
I love that for them.
I absolutely love that. Like it's so good, you know? Like, it's so good when instead of you have to, like, resort to violence, you know, like physical violence and murder,
yeah.
you keep it in the booth and you're just forced and challenged to write and be as, like, clever and as great as possible. And, like, surprisingly, not even surprisingly, but, like worthy, like, Kendrick Lamar is just, like, such a stronger writer, a stronger rapper. He came in such full force, and the lyrics and the hook, and it's Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Like, when I was looking at Songwriter of the Year, like, looking up the Grammys, and, or, like, Record of the Year, and you see the songwriters, it's just Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not all those songs could say. I think, like, Sabrina Carpenter's song had 3 songwriters on it.
Yeah.
I think Die With a Smile had, like, 4 or 5 songs. Like, they have so many, but Kendrick Lamar just had enough hate and petty in his heart. He was like, I got this on my own.
Right?
Yeah.
And he got 5 Grammys for it.
Yes.
Like, love that for him. I love that for us. Hopefully we continue getting great music like this, because 2024 is a great year for music. Like, I don't know, I guess, like, even think about representation wise, like Charlie XCX, like,
yeah,
that was a win for the gays.
Yeah, well deserved. She won that, well deserved.
Yeah, I'm so happy she was on stage and people saw her. You know, it's just like, oh, finally, you know. So yeah, like, you just gotta, like, even if you're just one-on-one, getting back to the podcast.
Yes.
You can still do great things, right? Because I think Charlie actually she's half white, half Indian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, grew up in, like, gay culture.
Yep.
And so I'm sure she does not fit into, like, the main idea of the Grammys, right? But you can still make waves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed. But no, I love Brad. It was a Brad summer.
It was.
The album was great. I still bump a few tracks from it, but, like, that was definitely on repeat for me in, like, the summer of 2024. Also, Chapel Row, and I finally caught up to her.
Yeah.
I caught up to her that summer and fell in love with her Midwest Princess album.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You like Good Luck, Babe?
I do. Like, I love Good Luck, Babe. I love Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
I also love Casual. And, I will say I don't love the whole album all the way through, but I love a great deal of it. Like, even Red Wine Supernova, it grew on me. I was like, okay, I get this. This is, like, a little fun bop. But she is such a, like, fun artist, and she is such a fun queer artist.
Yeah.
And the way that she uses her platform, it's just, like, it's just mesmerizing. Like, I can't hate her. I've not found a reason to hate her.
Yeah, I mean, I can't either. like, I fully support her. I literally spoke for artists at the Grammys and just like, hey, give us insurance, you know, so we can, like, live and make more art, you know, because so often artists are just, like, you know, relegated to the dredges of society, right? She's like, no, treat us right, and I appreciate that she did that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I also, well, I love her coming out story. And like the last man she dated was just like such a fucking loser. And I'm like, that'll do it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, of course it's, you're born that way and it's always within you. But like after you deal with another man who is disappointing, you're just like, I'm good. Give me a dog. I'd rather
Yeah.
die alone. You know, I like, ugh.
No, it's true. And honestly, I am so happy for the girls because there was so much representation with like lesbian women. Like we have Cynthia Erivo,
Yes.
we have Chaperone,
Yes.
Billie Eilish, who was
Yes.
also queer. Like Dozy is also
Yes.
queer. Like it's just like, oh yeah, like I love that we're just having queer artists like winning, right? And now you're celebrating straight women who have a queer audience, you know? Even though we love them too. Love you, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is queer. So yeah, even then, right?
Yeah.
It was just a good night. Overall, like usually I kind of like leave the Grammys upset, kind of just like, oh, so and so should have won, right? But this time it's just like, no, I'm happy. I feel like everyone who won, you know, deserved to win. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like you're right. Like this year's Grammys was their best year yet.
Yeah.
At least for the past like 10 years, this has been the best one.
Right, and I hope they keep it up because like I like this. I like tuning in and seeing people who I believe to win, you know. And who knows, maybe next year we'll be on there. We could be the host. We could be Trevor Noah.
Oh my God. You did.
I know. I did not like the immigration joke he did. But overall, it was just like, I watched Nikki Glaser host. Did she host the Golden Globes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was so
She killed
good.
it, yeah.
Yeah, and her special, so good too. I love her special. And Trevor Noah, I was just like, I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it, you know? Like, Trevor Noah is very charming, and I think he's an engaging personality, but like, the jokes weren't really there. Yeah. I mean, did you like it?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. No. No, but like getting back on topic.
Yeah.
With like the only one in the group podcast. So I decided to share like for the first full official episode with Lynn that I would share the story about being the only black girl in film club.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So like I joined film club the summer before I joined film club. I watched a bunch of films on the Criterion Collection. And like you know I guess this was before A24, but like I combed the internets for the indie movies, and then I rented them from our WKU library.
Okay.
Because this is when people were using DVDs, y'all.
Oh wow, that's
yes, DVDs, y'all. And I would like rent the DVDs from the library and watch them because I was a broke summer as well. And that's how I prepared for it. And so I was like, I think I can like convince these guys that like I am also a film snob. Like I also care about film. And I don't think I fooled a single fucking person.
Oh.
I don't think I fooled a single fucking person because for like one, like they were like, what are your favorite directors? And I'm like, oh, like Quentin Tarantino and like Spike Lee and like Steven Spielberg, and they're like, oh, like the guys who are blockbusters. Like it's like so mainstream. Like, like I love like Wes Anderson and some other weird white dude.
I hate that though, because like, why can't we use like the popular person, you know? Like, it feels like, I don't know, it's like, oh, who's your favorite artist? And I'm like, oh, I love Mariah Carey. And it's like, oh, the person with all the hits? And it's just like, yeah, they have hits.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Because she's got a voice of gold.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And she writes a lot of her own songs.
Yeah, she says, yeah, so it's just like, oh, maybe I like the most successful person because they're the best.
Yeah, yeah, like no one's topped it.
Yeah.
No one's topped Mariah Carey.
Right.
Not even close. The way that she blended pop and R&B was so beautiful.
It was. And so it's just like, yeah, maybe I do like Wes Anderson. You know, the guy who, like, we are obsessed with, who had whole TikTok trends of, he's, like, trying to imitate his cinematography. Like, yeah, like, of course we like these guys. They're the ones the culture's talking about, you know? So, yeah. So, basically, you want a big enough snob
Yes.
to fit in.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, no. And then like I think there was one meeting that we had where someone like brought up Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
And I have like these like weird moments where I'm like, I don't say like I'm triggered, but it's like I have an emotional response to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now. And it was about Taxi Driver. I fucking hated the film. I was very uncomfortable and very anxious all the way through. Have you seen Taxi Driver?
No, you said Taxi Driver, and I thought about Queen Latifah.
No. Oh my God! With Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, that's my only reference. I was like, oh, someone brought a Taxi Driver as like in this movie snob club.
Yes!
Okay, I'm for it.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Okay, so like the summary of Taxi Driver, spoiler alert, is that simply what it is that this like crazy man named like Tyler. I know this because it's like was so traumatic. This like crazy white man with the mohawk. Well, he doesn't have a mohawk. No, it was like he gets one later because he really loses his mind. He meets this child prostitute.
Oh.
Like this girl is clearly like 14. I think she's 14 in the movie.
Oh.
And then it's like Jodie Foster, and she like uses his taxi drive to like go and meet these Johns for, you know, for money and bad things. And I think like he saves her from one of the Johns and like shoots and kills him, and he's like carrying her out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so uncomfortable because I'm like, the fact that you even took her to other, like, she's a child.
Yeah.
She's not an adult, no matter how oddly sexual and adultalizing they attempted, the creators of the movie attempt. Like, so it's just like so fucking weird.
Yeah.
And no one else had that visceral reaction. like no one else really gave a shit. Like,
was this all men in the group?
Mostly men. Yeah.
Okay.
They were like, it's such a great film. And I'm like, this is so fucking weird. And they're like, yeah, Tyler's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, like he's like more than crazy. He's like a fucking pedo. Like, and
yeah.
Like a pedo adjacent. Like you don't do that.
He's a child trafficker.
Yes. And none of the men were triggered by that. And I'm like, no. Especially when you have her say she's 14. And I believe the actress was Jodie Foster. And the taxi driver is Robert De Niro. Yeah. So I hated the film. I filmed no one.
But why? Well, like,
yeah.
I feel like that's like the weird thing about these film clubs. Like, is it a place for criticism, or is this a place where we all nod along to what we think is true, right? Like, we always say, oh, it's so good, right? Do we not discuss in film club what we don't like about the movie? Like, why is that not fair? Why is that not open?
You know what? I really think, and it harps back to a conversation we had earlier, it is that the group was predominantly white and predominantly male. So they were accustomed and they knew about predominantly white male films that were like, you know, labeled as classics and good.
Yeah.
And like Taxi Driver was one of them, you know, like Wes Anderson's one of them, like Alfred Hitchcock, like all those like old white dudes. They're their dudes, like they're classics, they're cemented. They know, but they don't know black classics.
Yeah.
And they still consider themselves film snobs. It's like they don't even attempt to consider some black films that are like absolute classics, like Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, yeah.
I think one of my other favorites, it's Baby Boy. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. It's Baby Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, Baby Boy, what's that about?
Baby Boy has Tyrese. And simply, it is, like, one of the, like, such raw, honest portrayal of, like, a baby man where, like, this man is, like, 22, still living at home with his mom, and he has a girlfriend that's pregnant, and he's cheating on her with another girl, and he's driving his girlfriend's car, and he's just, like, a fucking child. He will not grow the fuck up. And his mom is like, you gotta get the fuck out of my house. You're 22, you got a baby, like, get the fuck out. And, like, you know, fucking forces him out and, like, to be a man. And the mom gets her home back and she has her man. And it's like, yeah, like, you're not doing your child any favors letting him stay at home.
Gotcha.
He's not going to become a better person or figure it out.
It's a coming of age story.
Yes, and I want to say it's a John Singleton film.
Okay.
Who is a black director that is a godsend. Like, just a classic. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like Boys in the Hood, I think Friday is a classic, like comedy wise.
Yeah.
Like everyone talks about like Porky. No, dog. Like fuck Porky. Friday, dude.
I love Friday. Friday like influenced my comedy so much.
Yes.
Like, and it's true. Like I'm gonna talk about Friday, right? Because for some reason comedy isn't taken seriously.
Yep.
For movies, even though comedy is like so important. You know, it's a whole genre. So yeah, like they will ignore that. I'm sure they ignore a lot of the Wayans brothers films.
Oh my god, dude! And like, what's so funny is like every black person would tell you they love white girls.
Yeah.
They love white girls. A lot of I think Scary Movie was their slight crossover where they got some white audience. But Scary Movie franchise, fucking classic. I grew up watching the Wayans Brothers TV show.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I still like remember like part of the theme song is like, we're happy and we're singing and we're colored.
I love
Give me a
that
high five, cut ambient, and they're like, what the fuck? And then they tear it down, and it's a really cool rap band. I love them. I love their like older brother Damon when he was on.
My Wife and Kids.
Oh my god, I did watch My Wife and Kids.
Yes.
See, like, and what's so funny? Oh my god. Side note. So I was at my improv theater. And I was going on, again, another one of my, like, emotionally charged rants. And I was going on about, like, nepotism. And I'm like, you know what? Nepotism, I, like, absolutely hate it. Because I feel like you just fucking got there because of the money and you know somebody. But there is someone that is 20 times more talented out there. They just don't know the connections. And as soon as they get the connections, you're fucking done, you know? I was, like, raining down on nepotism. And someone was like, well, what about Damon Wayans Jr.?
Yeah.
I think, like, they have a new TV show on ABC.
Yeah.
And I was like, not the Wayans family. What? They started out really, really poor.
Yeah.
And then someone pointed out their long history of, like, television and movies. And I'm like, oh, damn. Okay, we do have black nepotism. It's like,
which I love. Here's the thing. I realize I like nepotism when it leads to a great artist.
Yeah.
So I think about Will Smith and J.D. Pinkett Smith, right? Birth Willow, right? Willow.
I love Willow.
Great artist, right? Like the new album's so creative, right? And it's just like Willow has like used their resources and money from people around her from growing up, right? To like really, from what I think, hone her art, right? I'm sure that helped her. And I love that because we should all have that, right? If everyone could have that, it would be great. I think the Nepo problem is when the art is not great, right? And then it's just like, oh, well, now you're just here, and there's someone better who could do this, right? So nepotism, if you use it to like actually be more talented, you know, enhance your skills, great. If not, then it's a no for me. Yeah, and the Wayans brothers, they've used it for good. Like, that family is hilarious. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the Wayans family, but it just hit me hard to know their nepotism.
Right.
It's like, it's nepotism I support. I was like, and then also, too, it, like, emphasized how fucking old I was. And I thought, like, I was like, they haven't been around that long. And it's like, no. Like, I was watching them in grade school, elementary school. Like,
right.
Super insane. But yeah, like, no one in my film club would know about Friday. They wouldn't care to know about White Girls or Scary Movie, even though those are like fucking solidified black classic like comedy films. Dear God, like, I even think about just like the Friday universe and how like, you know, like there is a weird like comedy universe that's created in white films. Like some would say like, my God, what is the other white? I keep saying Wes Anderson, but there's another weird white guy.
I know there's so many weird white guys.
I think he's married to Maya Rudolph.
I think I'm trying to remember what you're talking about. I think I know you're talking about Paul Anderson. Is that
Yes, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Paul
Thank
Thomas
you
Anderson?
so much. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Paul Thomas Anderson. He's another one where they have like these pseudo worlds that they've actually created, and they have characters that come and play in it. But they wouldn't know about the Friday world.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't even know if I made it a full year. I made it enough in the film club to get a t-shirt.
Okay,
I do remember that much.
Was it a good t-shirt?
So the guy in the film club, he was obsessed with like Vertigo, which I think is an Alfred Hitchcock film. And so like
Yeah.
he was like wanting our t-shirt, and I still have the t-shirt where it has our names, but it's like in a vertical spiral.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it has our names on it. And it says like WKU Film Club like 20 blah blah blah. And so like it just, I was like, yeah, bro, that's cool. Like, look, fuck it.
Yeah.
I want a t-shirt. Here's $20. Give me a fucking t-shirt. I want to feel like I'm a part of a group.
Yeah.
But like, oh god, I don't think I made it a full year. They didn't see any of the films I cared to see.
Like you recommend a film, and
Yeah.
they were just like, no, we're not watching that.
Well, I didn't like. It was my first year, so I thought I shouldn't recommend the film. I just kind of like sat in and like, but like one of the movies we went to see was like at some small Nashville theater. I fucking fell asleep. Yeah, it was like a warmish day.
Yeah.
Theater's nice and cold, and I think I had a hot dog and some popcorn, and the movie was just like, and I literally fell asleep, and they're like, "You fell asleep," and I'm like, it's so fucking boring. Right. So I didn't last long, but like when I'm like looking back at this story and thinking like about the podcast, and like this story came out to me because I was the only black woman in that group. I think we had like 6 or 8 white male members. They weren't always there at the same time. And then we had one other white girl that was like really not there all the time because she loved the rock climb more, which is totally cool. So I was sometimes the only woman there.
Yeah.
We had a female faculty member that looked over us. That was like a professor in the school.
Yeah.
But overall, it was just like me and a room full of white men. And like I realized I've constantly been in that situation. I joined film club to make friends because I had moved almost 4 hours away from home to this new college, which I went to Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The school's population was like 90-something% white, like very painful, isolating white.
I feel like this is a canon event, though.
Yes.
Like, I feel like so many black people will like leave their home looking for a new community, and they just end up in a room full of white people. And that's a different community, you know?
Well, like, I didn't choose WKU for, like, I chose it for the education major that I went into.
Yeah.
But, like, I didn't realize how fucking painfully white it would be until I moved there.
Yeah.
Because, like, I grew up in Covington, Kentucky. We saw black people. It wasn't like we never saw black people. My school, Holmes High School, I think it was very diverse. Like, we had, like... I think it was still like 60% white, but we had like, I would say close to 20% Hispanic. We had like maybe 5% Asian. Like we had a mix, and then we had a good 30, 40, never 50, but like definitely like over 30, maybe over 40% black. A large black population. And not, even though we had a little bit more of a white population, they were poor, and they were poor like us. Yeah. They were poor like on Section 8. Yes. So like we were kind of all impoverished together.
Yeah.
And so going to a school where it is like 90-something% white, like painfully white, it hurts, man. It like hurts. It kind of hurts my eye. I guess it doesn't hurt my eyeballs, but it is why when I get on the subway, I'm like looking around everywhere, like, because it's like, oh, these people are different. Oh, these people are different. They're different. They're different. They're like different eyes, different hair, different languages. They're different. They're different. They're different. Like, it's just like my eyes, like, just like bulge out, and I cannot help but stare and to like look around because it has been so white. So like I use painfully in a very exaggerating way. But, like, at WKU, the only black people I did see on campus, they were in sororities and fraternities, or they played sports. And I could not afford a sorority or fraternity because I was on a foster care scholarship. We'll talk about that in another episode.
It's also expensive.
Yes. Even in-state college, it can be expensive. But also, then, of course, I'm not athletic. I haven't done a push-up since the 3rd grade.
They're hard.
Absolutely. Like, I'm not trying to put myself through that much physical torture. So like, I wasn't in a sorority fraternity. I didn't play sports. So even the clubs I joined were like,
Yeah.
they were mostly white, and film club was one of them.
Was like your fraternity and sororities, or was it like, oh, you had to like pay to be part of it, and you can only talk to the members?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is like weirdly enough, like a block and finding other black people, right? Because now there's like a paywall to community.
Yes.
And so you kind of had to like, oh, well, what's my interest? And you know, depending on where you're at, your interest may not lead to like a lot of diversity, unfortunately.
No, it's not. I had a female roommate, who rushed to the sorority and got in, but was having such a hard time paying dues.
Oh.
But like, she was also a painfully anxious, um what do you call it, like low self-esteem but hot, but like is in denial about her looks, so she like kind of throws herself into
Gotcha.
anything
Yeah.
to confirm she's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
But she would get really drunk at these parties, but yeah, she like had to get a job on campus, and she was embarrassed that like people would see her working on campus, but she needed a job to pay her dues because her dad was having health issues and her family didn't have the money for it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to be one of those girls. I didn't want to pay and go through that shit for a friendship.
Yeah.
So but I wanted to make friends.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was black. So like I joined a variety of clubs. I joined a college radio station, which I loved. I joined an international club. But like, I knew, and this is like what I really wanted to talk to you about and see if you relate it. As I got older, I knew and started to like realize and learn, and this was in college, and I really like this drove home, that a lot of white people that I was going to encounter did not know a lot of black people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they were going to have some preconceived notions, or yet they were going to not know how to behave at all because they have not been around black people, or they have only seen one version online somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I took it upon myself to represent the race and was always overly nice. Like, I walked up to you. I said hi to you.
Yeah.
I made eye contact. I laughed. I put you at ease.
Yeah.
And like, and it really plays back to the people pleasing tendencies I had, like, growing up in foster care. Like, I have to get you to adopt me and keep me because I don't want to, end up in a terrible home, and I'm like a teenage girl in foster care. I went into it for a second time in middle school, and it just like forced me to be a people pleaser.
Yeah.
I have to morph. I have to change. I have to people please in whatever environment I'm in, so you keep me, so I stay, so you want me around. And I did that for friends, and I did that for families that fostered me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just started breaking it in my 30s with my stand-up, because you can't pre-plan that for anybody. You don't know who's out there.
No, that makes total sense. Like, you're that people pleasing is a survival tactic, right?
Absolutely. That's why I do it so damn well, because it's like my body is so naturally goes into survival mode.
Right. It's that thing I learned was it's not just like fight or flight. It's freeze and fawn. Like, those are also options. And I think what happens to a lot of black kids is that if you're placed in an environment where you're not one of many black kids, you are isolated, you are ostracized.
Yes.
And so to just like not be seen as bad or wrong or any of these other negative connotations, right? You try to figure out, like, what am I doing wrong? And that leads to people pleasing, right? Because no one's communicating with you what you're doing right, or a lot of people are behaving the way they are towards you. And so you're just trying to change yourself, through trial and error. And eventually you find yourself later in your teens or 20s just doing this naturally, right? Because that's all you still have. Because no one is still talking to you about why people are reacting to you the way they are.
Yeah.
And then you finally get to a place, like, let's say New York or somewhere else, right? Where you are not, you are one of many, right? And now your body doesn't have to be in survival mode. And now you can actually, like, process and, like, wait, what happened, right? And it sounds like that's exactly what happened to you. You're just trying to figure out what's going on. This is what I know can work. If I guess bend in the right way, say the right words in the right tone, in the right order, I will get you to like me, and then I will be safe.
Yes, it was absolutely that. I did it as a form of feeling safe, because you were not safe if you were ostracized and being the other person.
Yeah.
You're not safe. You can be attacked. Like, if we're talking in a herd mentality, the herd doesn't accept you. They kick you out the pack.
Yeah.
And you're out there in the jungle alone. So, like, it's just a form of survival. And I finally started doing work on it and kicking it in my 30s, and then moving to New York, which just I don't want to say it was a rebirth, but it was just like another moment or evolution or era that I was stepping into.
Yeah.
And like the big step was like getting micro braids, and it was such a big step for me. I had not had my hair braided since, oh my God, 5th grade.
Oh, okay.
So, like, because my birth mother, who is black, she did not know how to do hair. So the ridiculous, a lot of ridiculous hair. But I also, too, like, I had my hair braided, and I lost my edges. It was so tight.
Yeah.
And it was such a painful experience. And then I had an experience with tracks. And, like, I'm a sweater, and so, like, with the glue and shit, hated that.
Yeah.
But, like, the micro braids I was, like, able to upkeep, and it just really, like, brought out this side of me, and I felt beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was just, like, very cool. I was like, oh my God, I'm beautiful. But it was just very cool. And I feel like that was my glow up, was that time in New York.
That makes sense. I wonder... Because it seemed like when you moved here, you felt like more accepted, right? There was less fear of being abandoned.
Yeah.
And I wonder, because you said in film club you didn't offer any films to watch until like a year, because of your first year. Do you think if you were like go back in time now, would you think you would suggest a film? Because I wonder if you didn't suggest a film because you were afraid it would like alienate you from the other members of the club.
I would definitely suggest a film, and I would bring up the point of why don't y'all know black films?
Yeah.
But if you're the only black person in the group, you're not going to feel that emboldened and that aware to say that. And I didn't. It was a fear of being ostracized. It was a fear of being other.
Yeah.
I was always other. I'm always the black girl in the room. I know that for a fact. So I just adapted. I just adapted the best way that I could.
What other choice do you have?
Exactly. But I was going to ask you, have you felt like as a black man you had to overly present nice? Have you felt pressure when someone meets you that you're representing the black race? Like, have you had that experience?
I think I have had that. I definitely have. People definitely want me to like represent black people when it's like a non-black environment, and I'm aware of it, and I always just kind of disregard it because I don't even know what that means to be black. Because we're not a monolith, right?
We are not a monolith.
Yeah, and so I can't represent all of us. I only have my own experience. And so I just like, well, I'm just going to be me. And, who me is a black weirdo. So
Yes.
So I'm like, well, you're going to be a black weirdo, and you need to learn how to, like, be around black weirdos because we're here. I think ground to me though, because I was also a people pleaser. Although my thing, I think my thing was just like I didn't want to be mean to anyone.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you're a kid, a lot of kids are mean, right?
Yes.
And sometimes kids bond over being mean to each other, or like having a common enemy. And because I didn't want to be mean to anyone, I got bullied a lot, right? I was already being picked on because I looked different with my teeth. I was doing gay shit. And so that was just another thing.
I feel like it's an Alex English reference. Yeah.
And so it was just, I was always standing out. That I got to a point I was never trying to fit in. And so instead of like trying to like fit in, I think I just assumed I would not. I just didn't care, and so I just like shrunk myself to myself. Like I isolated myself instead of being isolated.
No, I did the exact same thing when I was bullied. I got bullied so bad that I was like coming home crying all the time and like losing part of my hair.
Yeah.
I love my birth mom, but she was never able to console me emotionally. And then, she was also the cause of my emotional trauma. I love my mom, but it's complicated. But like, so my mom she didn't know what to do, so she was just like, fight him. Just start. I don't know. I've gone to the school. I've talked to the principal. I've talked to the teachers. You keep getting bullied. Girl, just fight him. Yeah. And that's what the fuck I did.
Yeah.
And so it got to the point where I would fight them, and my mom would be like, all right, like she wouldn't beat me for it.
Yeah.
And then the school got tired of me going to in-school suspension when you fight.
Yeah.
Because they can't, like, sometimes they can't send you home. Sometimes my mom doesn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
So you're in school suspension after fighting, and both of you are. And, like, eventually the teacher, how they intervened, the plan that the team created was when I got done with my work early, I was allowed to leave and volunteer in our special education classroom.
Gotcha, okay.
And that brought me a lot of joy. But I did the same thing where I was isolated and removed from the situation because the bullying was so bad.
I hate that, though.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's unfair that you go to ISS, right? Like, I don't know the purpose of ISS, and you're an educator, so maybe you can tell me more. Mm-hmm. But to me, it always felt like a punishment for the kid who was, like, bullying, and also the kid who fought back, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, no, the kid who is fighting back, they need support. They need to be validated.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, good kids rarely make good adults.
Yeah.
And so we need to, like, let kids know, hey, it's okay that you fought back, that this person was, like, bullying you, And so I wish there was, like, more validation that went there. But also, it's also weird because, like, that's what happens in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you were to fight someone now, the cops gonna arrest the person who you fought and arrest you,
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think what I was really grateful for, was that because the bullies knew that I was gonna, like, fight back and cause a scene where we would both be in school suspension, the bullies was like, if I fuck with Katerra, we're gonna both get suspended.
Yeah.
I don't, my mom's gonna beat my ass if I get suspended. And I knew my mom wasn't.
Yeah.
As long as I was defending myself,
yeah,
she did not give a shit.
That's good.
And I would say by the time I entered 8th grade, the bullying stopped.
That's good. That's good. I mean, that's great because I think along that people pleasing is also a tendency to, like, be physically attacked as well, right? Because that's what happened to me. Like, I was physically assaulted and definitely just, like, froze, right? And I was not getting that support to be, like, fight back, right? Like, it was not helping the situation for me. And so it's good that, like, your mom let you fight, Mm-hmm. And it's just, like, it's going to be okay. Like, fight, you won't get punished for it. Like, that, I think, is just good raising.
No, absolutely. I feel like that was... I know my mom was frazzled and she was like, I don't know what to do about this situation anymore, but she allowed me to fight back, and I feel like that's where I kind of got a lot of my, like, fight or resilient spirit, like, where it started was fighting back. And I'm so thankful it stopped for me in the 8th grade. I have another sibling who they still got bullied all throughout high school.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were in a classroom and a bully came up and punched my sibling in the fucking head.
Yeah.
And I, like, flipped the fuck out and I jumped and I was, like, yelling at this girl, like, get off my sibling. And I looked over at my sibling and I was like, aren't you gonna do something? You can't just sit and get hit. What the fuck are you doing? And they just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I was so upset by that.
Really?
I came home to our adoptive parents. I was adopted, so I came home to our parents and I was like, so-and-so let this happen to them. They let them, like, they got punched in the head and they did nothing. And my dad was like, what? Why didn't you do anything? And I just couldn't, like, it was just something that was so foreign to me.
Gotcha.
You let it happen, and you didn't do anything? You didn't fight back once?
I will say I am that person. Maybe was, still is, I don't know. But I think when that happens, right, it's very confusing for the other person because, like, they're being met with this aggressive energy, right?
Yeah, and it was so unprovoked.
Yeah. And I think when someone is like, why didn't you do anything, right, mm-hmm. it's a similar energy, right, of being, it's like, in that instead of like being like physically assaulted, you're being like verbally like told you're doing something wrong, something is wrong with you, right? And so they're shutting down more, right?
Yeah.
Because their response is to shut down. And so I think what happens is they don't get the gentle validation that they need to feel more comfortable with, like, fighting back, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard because, like, I think, like you said, like, you're so upset, right, that it's hard for you to, like, leave that anger, right, and validate them. And also, you're also a child as well.
Yeah, I'm a child, yeah.
And so, like, it's really the job of the parent to, like, or any adult, really, to be like, hey, you're responding in this way, let's talk about it, like, you know. And I hate that because, like, that was me, and it really messed me up for so long. It still has messed me up now. Like,
yeah,
I have this, like, you know, some people have, like, nightmares. I have, like, fightmares. Like, I wake up, like, ready to fight, sweating, and just angry, right? And sometimes I do is just, like, leaving this state of, like, functional freeze. And now I'm just, like, in this, like, fight mode at nighttime, right? And that comes from being othered, because part of being othered is, like, no one sees you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason no one sees you because you're not making a fuss.
Yeah.
And so when you start to make a fuss, people start to see you, and you are less othered. You are someone, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you are seen as a threat, which also sucks, I imagine, a different type of bad. But it is not the lonely bad, I think, because some people will, like, see you fighting and they will, like, join you. They'll be like, no, you are in the right, you know. Because I think the reason I didn't have a lot of friends as a kid is because I wasn't fighting back, and kids did not want to be around someone who was getting knocked around. And, you know, fair enough to those kids. So it affects you long term.
It really does. I think the bullying, what affected the bullying the most on me was my self-image.
Mm-hmm.
That I never saw myself as, like, painfully beautiful or God-stakingly gorgeous. Like, that just... Yeah. I've never seen myself that way. And I am sure that it's probably because of the bullying. Because even when I get complimented now for how I look, I just say I look presentable, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then when I look around and see how people look, I'm like, oh, okay, some people are looking like dead at, like, real trash, like, no shower, looking dirty. They're not really even, I'm trying. I'm actually a little bit better than trying. Yeah.
You're making an effort in how you present yourself. And I think, yeah, it definitely does, because your self-worth is getting beaten down every day. How are you supposed to look at yourself and feel good? You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I also, too, I think the way that you present yourself, not the way that you present yourself, but I think you need to be aware of how others perceive you.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to judge you. Like, they're just going to judge you. And I have found in New York City you're judged a lot more on not what you look like skin-wise, but, like, what you're wearing.
Yeah, I found that too, and I feel like you also get judged more on your skin as well, like the combination of skin and what you wear.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like white people have, like, this weird, like, permission to dress more kooky. For, like, a better term.
Yeah.
And when you are not white and you dress more kooky, you get more strange looks. It's just like, what are you doing? We don't do that, you know. And that is just a hard thing to break away from too, because you have to accept, one, people are gonna look at you weird, and two, you have to accept that, like, it's worth it though. The ability to express yourself beats any weird look, honestly.
Well, and this is why, and we were talking about this before the podcast when I said, like, it's so important for queer communities to have their communities.
Yeah.
Because, like, like, within this community, like, the idea of like wanting to be seen in your authentic way and not having to mask and like like kind of like cover yourself up and in an effort to protect yourself so you're safer.
Yeah.
I can't understand that, but it probably brings you more peace and joy when you can be with people who do understand that. And that's what, like, it's just an experience I don't understand, and why I understand I'm not a part of the community.
Well, here's the thing. I think you are part of the community because you're an ally. And
Absolutely, yeah.
And the thing is, it's like part of being a community isn't just having the people who will like fight for you. It's also the people who will talk to you afterwards gently. It's like, oh, someone just looked at you weird. Are you okay? How do you feel? Or like, oh, someone was mean to you. It's like making a joke, right? So you feel better, right? There's so many ways we can be part of a community without being a member of it. Then we can just let people know they're seen and heard and that we care.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like you do that, you know?
Well, I feel like if thank you. Thank you. I have to receive and recognize that compliment. But honestly, I feel so comfortable with the LGBTQIA community, and I feel so comfortable with being an ally because when I'm the other in the room, I'm looking for another other.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10, it's another queer person. It's a white queer person. It is a queer person. I'm like, oh, you're safe because you know what it feels like to be other.
Yep.
And that's why I'm so glad you're co-hosting this podcast with me.
I'm glad you're letting me.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Have a good night.